Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe with Streamline Capital. Really excited for today's show. We've got AJ Shepard with us today. So, AJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, do us a favor, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into real estate.
Sure. So I'm based out of Portland, Oregon. My
Mhm.
brother and I started buying real estate back in like 2007, 2008, and we bought houses and kind of did the Burr method before Burr
Mhm.
was really kind of even
Yeah.
coined that, which was
Now I'm gonna go back. So 2007, that's pre-crash.
yes.
Yes. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure we're talking. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. So you started doing Burr method,
Yeah, we started doing
2007. Okay.
Yeah, 2007, we kind of did like one or two. And then
Hmm.
as everything went down, we really focused on bank-owned properties here
Hmm.
in Portland. And we were able to pick them up well under asking price. And
Hmm.
we do a little value add to it and then refinance it. And we were able to pull all of our cash out. And then we just kind of move on to the next one. So we did that
Okay.
till about 2011. And at that point, we had a portfolio large enough that we're like, hey, we're managing all these properties ourselves. Why don't we manage for other people? And then we started a
Hmm.
property management company in which we still run that today.
Hmm. Awesome. So managing for yourself to managing other people, what was that transition like?
That was really interesting. My background was in contracting. I
Hmm.
worked for a heavy industrial contractor kind of out of college. Learning the service business and learning how to deal with employees was quite a step that was a little bit harder than originally would have thought.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're telling me that's probably one of the hardest things that I've done transitioning is hiring and managing and keeping the right people and all that fun stuff. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. How have you navigated those challenges and what have you learned from it?
Yeah, so I mean, specific to that business, it was like 2014,
Hmm.
2015. I kind of went down the track of getting involved with an association. So I volunteered with NARPM, it's the National Association of Residential Property Managers. And
Hmm.
that really kind of helped our industry knowledge and like that specific knowledge. My brother joined another organization called
Hmm.
EO, which
Okay.
is Entrepreneurs Organization. And that kind of taught us like the business acumen. We subscribed to like Gino Wickman's Traction,
Yeah.
his EOS platform.
Hmm.
So, it was like, well, that was like 3 or 4 years after we started the company where we actually like started really doing business. We had found clients and people that,
Hmm.
wanted to have us manage, and we were doing a lot of the work ourselves at that time. But yeah, once we started getting employees, that's when like getting that business and industry knowledge was super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love the Traction series or the EOS. EOS, I was going to say the EOS system, but I guess the S would be redundant. But, it's something that we've been following. Yeah. So let's talk about EOS for a little bit. I mean, how did that help you with building the company? And, would you recommend other people use something EOS or something similar?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the two main ones are like scaling up, which is
Mhm.
like Vern Harnish's system, and then the EOS. We prefer EOS. They talk about the meeting pulse in there and just
Hmm.
having like regular meetings with the company. One of the main things that we did is they have what's called a VTO. It's a Vision
Hmm.
Traction Organizer, and getting like really clear on what our core values are and what our vision is for the company. They talk about it a lot in the book of like getting everyone rowing in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's like getting employees on board to be working on the company and trying
Mhm.
to propel things forward.
Yeah, I like the organization that it gets you. It basically hands you a system, so you don't have to figure out, okay, what meetings do we need to have, and all that other fun stuff. It hands you a system and you just got to learn it and follow it. That's what I like about it. And it's
Yeah,
powerful. So,
yeah. Well, and it works. Like there's so many businesses out there that use it. When you start like talking to people, they're like, "Oh yeah, I do traction," and
yeah.
everybody does it just like a tiny bit different. Like you can kind of mold
Mhm.
it to what fits your needs or your culture as a company, but it's the basic things of like meet and work on, improving the business.
Yeah, your weekly to-do list, your,
Yep.
weekly measurables, that's it's all stuff that, if you spend a little time figuring it out, it makes managing everything else, a lot easier in the long term. It's just, did you do it? Yes or no? Yep, I did it. All right,
Yeah.
cool. But makes meetings much more efficient as well, which is something that I hate long meetings, and I especially hate the meetings where you don't get anything done. So anyway, traction. I love the EOS. That's entrepreneurial operating system for people who aren't part of that club. But all right, so EOS, really, really good. Let's talk about your journey from there, property management company, hiring people, scaling, take it on from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, all that time while we were doing the business, we really started the management company to support
Hmm.
kind of our properties. And
Hmm.
we just kept buying properties and we made the transition from like single family homes to duplexes, then into fourplexes, and kind of using that same method of like buying the property, fixing it up. As we got like to the larger properties, we found we had to leave some of our capital in there. So it was about 2020 or 2019, we found syndication. And
Hmm.
that's when we were like, oh, I can raise money from other people and then use
Yeah.
that for the down payment and provide them a return. And so since then, we've been really focusing on the syndication business and raising capital.
Yeah. Magical how that works,
Yeah.
yeah, bringing other people's money, and I love the structure. I mean, it works for both directions. I mean, we're leveraging other people's money to buy larger properties, and the investors are 100% leveraging our time to hopefully make good returns on their investments. But with the syndications, I mean, you're going from BRRRRs, you start, as you mentioned, you started getting to larger and larger properties, realizing that you weren't getting all your money back. Moving into syndications, what were some of the challenges that were a little bit different than what you were facing before?
You know, there's always one good lesson that I like to share on the first one that we did. You know, in the residential world, you could go buy a property and then you could refinance it
Hmm.
essentially immediately. And typically we'd like buy something all cash, fix it up, and then we'd be working on the refinance while we were doing the rehab.
Hmm.
And so we could do that, like, you know, get it done in like 3 months, maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
Fourplexes, they might take like 6 months to 9 months, but we wouldn't have any problem just refinancing and getting our money out.
Hmm.
Well, the first syndication we did was 9 units, and just like usual, you know, we get in there, we bought it, we get it fixed up, and then we go to do financing, and then we come to the end of it, and it's like one of those Freddie Mac SBL loans.
Mm, yeah.
So as you get into like commercial loans, they underwrite the property instead of the.
The owners. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they still look at the owners. A
Hmm.
lot of them we have to give guarantees for just like negligence and other stuff, but they're usually fairly non-recourse.
Yeah.
But what we found out is that they would only finance up to loan to cost
Hmm.
if it was within 1 year. So we were like
Correct.
at that 9 month period, and you know, I think we bought the place for like 1.25
Hmm.
million, and it appraised for 1.8 million.
Hmm.
And so we were just not able to pull out as much money as we had anticipated. And making that change to like now in all of our plans, we're definitely holding, you know, the property and fixing it up for more than a year, trying to get all those
Yeah.
gains so that if we refinance that we're able to, you know, secure more bank debt.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. It's definitely a different lending atmosphere. You're never going to get as high leverage with commercial loans as you can with residential loans as well. And yeah, it's something I found, is just how long it takes for commercial loans.
Yeah.
Residential loan, I mean, you can start to finish in 7 days, for a lot of those. But yeah, commercial loans take a lot longer, so.
Yeah, I mean, even on, like on the purchase price of commercial properties was, you know, part of that transition is like, you know, residential, it's like 30 days, 30-day close,
Yeah.
commercial 60-day minimum. And then,
Hmm.
you know, sometimes with 30-day extensions and you're participating in the next person's possible 1031 and gets
Yeah.
extended for that. Like it's just definitely a different animal. I mean, it's a lot of the same concepts and a lot of the same tools, but
Yeah.
just some different processes around
Nuance,
it.
different
Yeah.
nuances. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's definitely true. Conceptually, it's almost exactly the same as, buying a duplex or a quad, but when you start implementing a lot of things, there are a lot of differences here and there. But conceptually, yeah, you put debt on the property, you're getting some leverage from the bank, you're bringing all the remaining funds to the table, fix it up, you either refinance or sell on the back end, and conceptually it's all the same. Mechanics definitely change. So,
Yep.
well, cool. So you talked about what you're doing up front. How has your deal size and your buy box changed since you guys started syndicating?
You know, we've stuck pretty close to our buy box, kind of like seeing everything through the downturn since we, you know, started in '07, '08. We really focused on predominantly like two bedrooms. And with the single family homes, like they're more than 2 bedrooms. But as we got into the apartments, like we see that tenants will, in hard times, they'll move in together. And so those two
Mhm.
bedrooms are always rented out, whereas like the studios and 1 bedrooms may not be as rented out. And yes, they're more rent per square foot, which developers like, but for our
Mhm.
standards, we're looking more at like the larger 2 units. In Portland, there's a lot of 40s and then kind of 70s built product.
Mhm.
So we're able to go after that, which, is probably in its like second facelift or, if the owners have really stretched it out, it might be its first facelift. We typically look for exterior doors because our management company utilizes self-showing lock boxes.
Mhm.
So we don't want anything with interior corridors. It just makes for more hassle for management. And then like some sort of value add component. Like the last couple that we've picked up have been from estates. Someone
Mhm.
was self-managing for 20, 30 years and passed away, and their kids are like, I want nothing to do with this. And
Yeah.
that's where we come in. Like we see
Mhm.
paper leases and we're like, sweet, we can get all
Oh
this
yeah.
on technology, bring it up to the marketing, get better. We'll put in granite countertops and either paint the cabinets or replace the cabinets altogether and put in LVP flooring and
Yeah.
all that good stuff. And like we're improving the condition of the property significantly.
Yeah. I love the like the handwritten I've seen handwritten T12s before. Anytime you see something like that, it is a little bit of a pain to process and to underwrite stuff like that, but gosh, when you see it, you know you've got a pretty decent deal on the table right there. It's like, okay, mom and pop, we can work with this. So,
The one thing that we've run into is like
mhm.
with financing, it can be super challenging.
Right. Yes, true.
Just because like the bank underwriters look at this and they're like, is this real?
Exactly. And
So
that is true, depending on what lenders you're working
yeah,
with. Definitely provides its challenges, but I mean, there's always on the flip side, there's a lot more room to improve operations,
yeah.
so but yeah, lenders tend to flip out when it's handwritten P&L, or we bought one from, somebody I would consider a mom and pop, and they were running their cell phone, their truck payment, and all this stuff through the property. And that was one of the things where we had to really talk with our lender about, hey, can you not include his truck payment? I mean, it very specifically says Ford F-150 on the P&L, um, but yeah, it is a little harder working with the lenders, but when you can pick those properties up, they often are little gems. Well, cool. So what's next for you, coming up here?
We're still finding deals
Mhm.
here in Portland. Our unit size, we've kind of been between like that 20 and 60 unit
Mhm.
without an on-site manager. We're raising anywhere from like $1 million to $5 million a deal. And we're getting those reps in and we're
Mhm.
doing those. I think we've done 2 or 3 deals this year. So I mean, like our next step is I've kind of located some other property management partners in some other markets. And
Mhm.
just looking to team up with them and possibly open up our markets and then also open up our deal size. Like if we can get to above that 60 to 70
Mhm.
unit range where an on-site manager makes sense.
Yeah.
The issue that we run into right off the bat with that is then there's more competition. Typically, we're not finding that people from out of state are coming into Portland and buying those sub 50 units. Like
Yeah.
they need that management company and a strong relationship to manage them.
Mhm.
So we've
Yep.
kind of found like as of right now, that's been kind of our niche that's
Mhm.
performed quite well. We get great pricing on them and
Yep.
they perform.
Have you ever tried clustering your properties or finding properties in close proximity to take advantage of like managing out of one property?
Yeah, whenever we buy something, we always kind of look around the neighborhood and knock on
Mhm.
some doors. I think we've successfully done that with like one property,
Yep.
but often if someone's not ready to sell, generally the price
Mhm.
that we want to give them is not something that they're ready to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that makes sense, somebody knocked on my door and asked for actually, I haven't seen this very much in multifamily, but I got a letter in the mail, like direct mail campaign, came in a thank you card envelope, and they're asking to buy a property that I just purchased through syndication. And I remember looking at that. We bought the property at 12.9, I remember looking at that and thinking, yeah, 15 million I'd be selling today, but we literally closed in that property like 3 months ago. It's just like, yeah, I'm not selling that yet. But yeah, I understand that. So if I'm not ready to sell, I'm going to give you a pie in the sky price, and
Yeah.
if you hit it, I win. So
But if you're in the business long enough, like we've had properties we've put offers in, and then
Mhm,
6 months later they come back and they're like, "Yeah,
mhm.
so you guys still want to put an offer in?" It's
Yeah,
like we've gotten known in our market as like the people that close, and our underwriting's pretty solid. So like
yeah.
we don't jerk people around, and they generally don't like to see our price right off the bat, but
Mhm.
that is what it is.
It's definitely one of those intangibles. And having been on the selling side on multifamily, it creates its own challenges when you get a deal under contract and the buyers don't buy. I
Yeah.
mean, you obviously are still operating the property, but there's time and there's energy and there's some costs associated with that. And, if you're syndicating, there's investor relations that are involved in that as well. But when you're working with somebody that you can close, I mean, I would go give somebody a lower price. As a seller, I would go for a slightly lower price with a group that I know would close. So there's definitely advantages to being the guys in the neighborhood that can close. So definitely advantages there. But
Yep.
yeah. Well, cool. So a couple last questions as we're wrapping up. All right. If you had to give advice to somebody who's just starting in this multifamily syndication game, what would that advice be?
My advice is
Mhm.
underwrite the operator more so than the deal.
Yeah.
I've seen, especially in this time right now, I've seen a lot of capital calls come up and
Hmm.
other people, and the deal can look incredible, but a bad operator can turn a good deal bad, and a
Hmm.
good operator can make a bad deal good. So
Absolutely.
focus on the operator and what they do and their track record, and I think that's good. Also, like with real estate, like you got to get in the game. Even, buying a smaller duplex or buying a smaller fourplex. Real estate, we have found is like the easiest pathway to create wealth. That's been super helpful for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I mean, getting in the game is half the battle, and
Yeah.
until you own something, I mean, you're essentially on the sidelines or on the bench or
Well, and
whatever.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of investors like they don't quite grasp the like tax implications that come along with it. And I'm not a
Mhm.
CPA or a tax attorney, so I can't give tax advice, but the negative loss on the K1s is very helpful and very nice. I know a lot of our investors
Yeah.
are happy to see that when it comes out.
Absolutely. Especially, speaking selfishly on this one, yeah, the investors like it, but, now that I qualify as a real estate professional, I don't pay a whole lot of taxes on a given year. So, yeah, a lot nicer than it seems for some people. But
Yeah, that real estate professional is awesome because then you can offset your active income with your passive losses.
yeah. And speaking of the depreciation and passive losses, I'm curious to see if, that gets the 100% bonus depreciation comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, it seems
yeah.
like there may be some favorable real estate laws coming down the pipeline, but time will
Yeah.
tell.
Time will tell. I mean, if I were a betting person, I think I would bet on those coming back, just
Yeah.
because, Republicans in the House tried to, put that into a bill that went up to the Senate, got nixed there. But, that was earlier this year that was happening. And now with
The
the
trifecta.
yeah, I'll be honest, when either political party has House, Senate, and the president, it always worries me. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, with the trifecta in Congress, I do think we are going to get some real estate friendly legislation coming down. And then of course the way things work, 4, 8, or 12 years from now, it's going to get peeled back. So, but anyway, so last question, and how can our listeners learn more about you?
Sure. My brother and I run a podcast. It's called the West Side Investors Network, WIN for short.
Okay.
Our employee Trent is mostly the one on there now,
Okay.
but Uptown Syndication is our
Mhm.
company name. Uptown Properties is our property management company.
Mhm.
And they can fill out any sort of contact form there, and that would be awesome. And if you like this podcast and like my podcast, definitely hit that
Yeah,
subscribe button and the like on it for us. We do appreciate
absolutely.
that.
Good point. I mean, that's something that, if you're looking to show a podcaster that you like their podcast, very simple, like, subscribe, whatever app you're on, if you're on the YouTube or the podcast things. And I would take it one step further, reach out to the podcaster and just say, hey, I like your podcast, so yeah, we'll see if that generates any reach outs, but, awesome. We'll put links to your podcast. We'll put links to the websites that you mentioned in the show
Awesome.
notes. Anything else you want to see in the show notes from us?
No, I don't think so.
Awesome. Well, hey, AJ, thanks for coming on the show today. Very much appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.